and welcome back to the BraindAI Podcast. I'm your host, Lenka. This is the show for digital agency and innovative brands focused on predictable growth. We deliver the AI solutions and systems required to streamline client acquisition and automate service delivery, ensuring you are maximizing your capacity to scale. Today, we're speaking with a seasoned expert in the world of sales and business growth. With over 2 decades of experience, he's the founder of Strike for Sales, an agency renowned for his expertise in B2B cold outreach. He's also an accomplished author with several books on sales and negotiation and a passionate advocate for disciplined action in business. He's here to share his insights on what it truly takes to build and scale a successful sales operation in today's rapidly changing landscape. Welcome to the show, Ciaran.
Thanks, Lenka. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm really excited.
You've built Strike for Sales over 2 decades. What first inspired you to get into sales and start your own agency?
Well, gee, that's an interesting question. Well, when I first came to Australia, I was an art director and graphic designer back in the day. And I actually was sharing a house with a salesman who worked on selling directory advertising, cold, door to door. And at the time, there wasn't a lot going on in terms of the need for graphic designers. And we just had a chat and he said, hey, you could do this. And I had no background, no training, nothing like that. The only thing I had was I was prepared to talk to strangers, if that makes sense. Right. So sometimes that can be annoying. Sometimes it can be an asset. In this case, it proved to be an asset because my advantage was when it came to selling advertising was that I could draw the ad in front of the client. So, what I was essentially doing was making an intangible product tangible. And that was the only skill I had when I went into the game. But it was great. And I learned so much just by physically walking around, knocking on doors, walking into businesses, talking to businesses about what's going on, and then creating a product in front of them.
Incredible. What do you think? Because as you said, not everyone is really suited for this. Is it something that you can learn to build up that skill to talk to strangers?
I think that I talk a lot to business owners, small business owners and large business owners and managers, etc. The one thing, and people go, oh, I'm not very good at sales. I'm not very good at speaking to strangers, etc. But the one thing I think that's in common is that all business owners and managers, etc., will have a passion for their product or service. And let's face it, if you don't have that sort of passion for what you do and how you do it, if you don't have a passion to help your customer, at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to run a business. You're not going to be able to sell anything. But you don't need to have a whole gamut of sales skills. First of all, you need to have a passion for helping other people, and your product or service is what is the vehicle to achieve that. And then you'd be happy to chat to people. And that's the thing, as opposed to trying to persuade people and trying to influence them with ooky spooky magic words and things like this, which a lot of people think that their sales is this, black art or black box full of secret tricks. And there are techniques, but they're no good if you don't have a passion for what you do.
You've written a lot about sales. What's the one big lesson you've learned that you think every business owner should know?
Well, it sort of follows on from that, is that most business owners, and I put this in, it's almost like the first section of my book, Interruption Selling, is most sales managers don't do this, right? So a lot of businesses will go out and think, oh, we want more sales. I'll go out and hire a $200,000 salesperson. That'll fix my problems. It doesn't, because all you've done is you think you've fixed your problem by employing this so-called salesperson. But most salespeople don't like speaking to strangers. It sounds nuts, right? So they don't so their measure is, and your measure of them should be, give them a telephone, tell them to make a phone call in front of you to a stranger and pitch something. So most business owners, small or large, don't understand that they need to own a certain amount, just a little bit, just a few skills, so that they can manage that resource when they do employ them and or do it themselves. But owning that key principle, that how many new prospects did our business speak to this week? Think about that number for a second. If everyone listening or watching the podcast went back after this, did nothing else but this, went back into their business and looked around and said, what is the number? How many businesses or prospects did we speak to this week? I don't care if that's inbound. I don't care if it's from social media inquiries. I don't care if it's from LinkedIn or Facebook or whether it's from a trade show, but I want the net number of actual conversations, not texts, not chats, but this face-to-face or over the phone where they're actually speaking to a potentially new customer. And once you know what that number is, I have to tell you, I'll share it with you here, that for most businesses, A, they don't know what the number is. B, when they find out what the number is, they're shocked and appalled. They're like going, oh my God, because it becomes immediately obvious that it is unsustainable if they don't control that. So we want to increase that. Then we can put systems and resources and plans and CRMs and all sorts of other tools and techniques behind that number to increase it on a weekly, monthly, annual basis.
Interesting. I think that's kind of my next question around what would be the most common trap that business owners make when they start to scale and hire sales team, especially when they don't have a background.
Salespeople are very good at selling their number one product, which is themselves, right? Okay. So they're very, very good at selling how tough the market is. They're very good at selling that their people aren't trained enough. They're very good at selling whatever. There's a whole range of excuses that come along. It's a bit like if you remember Jerry Maguire, show me the money, right? Okay, this is it, right? You've got a binary outcome that you want to receive from your salespeople. And quite often you need to go back and focus on the basics as opposed to hiring and recruiting a very expensive solution. Just focus on the core basics. And to a certain extent, do it yourself. That doesn't mean you have to become an expert. But what it does mean is you need to have some expertise in managing it. Does that answer your question? I don't know if that quite...
Yeah, if you don't have expertise, I'm just wondering, if you are business owners, you're still passionate, but you're not necessarily coming from the sales background.
Yeah.
Trying to scale your business, trying to grow, trying to recruit someone who can help you scale the business.
Yeah.
What are the red flags or like something you should really watch for when you, to your point, because salespeople are really great at selling themselves. How do you know you have the right person in your team?
I think 9 times out of 10, your gut feel is the right feel. Okay. So 9 times out of 10, how you feel about a person and about a proposed solution is going to be correct. And you'll feel more comfortable moving with your gut feel. I do want to say though, there is a danger in particularly with AI and the amount of tools that are just falling out of the sky every day. You can create online ads. You can have robots making calls for you. You can have everything is there at a touch of a button. But the danger, the red flag in this is it's a bit like, imagine here in Australia, we have a lot of big hardware stores called Bunnings. And there's Mitre 10, a few other ones. They're a bit like Home Depot in the United States. And it's a bit like if all the tools, all the drills, hammers, saws, all of those tools suddenly became free tomorrow, and you could go in and buy everything. You've got every single tool available to you in your house. That doesn't necessarily make you a better renovator. That doesn't help you. It gives you the illusion that you can do this because the tools are there and they're free, but it doesn't improve your skill set at managing those tools. So the bit that's missing quite often, even though that AI is bringing a lot of great stuff, fantastic stuff, exciting stuff to your table, there needs to be a certain discipline at the very center of that. And that is your ability to manage, your ability to control those tools and select which one for the right job, be trained in. So that's the difference between being an electrician, okay, who's being trained and qualified and knows how to use which tool at the right time, as opposed to Joe Soap, who just turns up, buys all the gear, but has no idea. That's a weird sort of metaphor to try and illustrate that example. But as a handyman myself, I think it makes sense.
Discipline. Yeah, that was my next question. How do you collaborate with AI platforms and everything that, is coming up and disturbing our business as usual, as we would say?
Well,
Because
look, AI is just another interruption, if I want to put it that way. It's just another shiny thing that's over here. It is useful and it is changing processes and models and behaviors, but it's only going to be useful to you if you have your outcome in mind and if you have control over those processes throughout that. Before we began the session, I went into, I've got a couple of things I keep around my desk as a reminder about technology and how it changes the world. And I don't know if you can see this. I'll sort of hold this up here. This, can you see that?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so that is a Persian arrowhead. Okay, that was made approximately 1500 to 2000 BC. Okay, so that is a pretty old piece of technology. So it was mass produced, it was cast, and at the time when that gave a sustainable advantage to the people who were using it. However, it was only good if they knew how to use it. Okay, if they knew how to also build a bow, they were trained in how to aim, how to penetrate. People who were trained in how to cast bronze and how to manufacture that and how to get the core elements to make that arrowhead. I keep that around because I know that there will be other innovations that happen in the future that will change things and we have to adapt. But the principle remains the same, is that as a business owner, your ability to stay focused on what your key goals are, how you achieve them. If the tool helps you do that, great. If it doesn't, get rid of it and wait until something comes along that can.
Love it. And you're right. It's just another disruption and many
Yeah.
more will come.
Well, I just turned on my PC this morning and I already have, I don't know what, the ones that got through the spam filters, I already have 10 or more emails saying quick question. Hey, just a quick question, Ciaran. Or I had a quick thought, or the ones that scrape your website and say, I was looking at your website and thought of these things. And the engines are designed to pull out the pieces of information and make it relevant to me. Whereas, to be perfectly honest, instead of sending me an email, why don't you just call me, right? Just pick up the phone and ring me. My phone number's everywhere. And so very quickly, if you have a conversation with someone, that is what I would call a core that isn't going to go away. A human to human, person to person, live conversation. That's what matters. Everything else around it is a distraction. So don't get busy just being busy. Get busy being effective.
Do you reckon us as a humanity have a little bit of problem with the new generation being constantly online with like type of conversations and just hanging out? Everything's online. Everyone just texting, everyone just emailing, everyone just sending voice messages. Not even like you don't really have this dialogue between humans. Do you think it would have a big impact in how we do things?
It's I'm old enough and wise enough to remember. I mean, this will really make me sound old, but I remember the internet coming along. I remember the mobile phone, the first mobile phones. The big ones with a huge. They were like carrying a suitcase around, and it cost a fortune. I remember for email. I remember showing friends Hotmail on how you get a free email around the world. The problem is that the generations below me and there's an opportunity in this as well, is for the younger generations who grew up with a mobile phone, with texting, with emails, with online chat, is that became the status quo. And the core difference here is that one of these forms of communication is what I would describe as being passive, right? It's permission-based communication. I send you a text or I send you an email hoping to grab your attention. So you need to respond in order for that to start becoming a communication. So that's a passive or permission-based way to sell. The problem here is that selling, if you're on a permission-based, and it's been driven a lot by marketers who have come from this earth, because marketing by default is a permission-based approach or structure to the world. Marketing is about putting a big message out there, making our product or service look appealing to attract customers to our webinar, to attract customers to our storefront, if it's retail, to get people to walk in, everything from a poster on the front door. So marketing is very much about permission-based approach. However, sales is not. And sales has been taken over by marketing. Sales has been sort of wrapped up in this sort of, we have to get permission, as opposed to, and that's why the title of the title of the book is Interruption Selling, in that salespeople have forgotten that their core job, their number one job, is to interrupt and speak to other human beings about the product or service. So it's, again, getting back to that point, it's very easy to be super busy. It's very, very easy to be there typing up, I've got so many emails I need to send out, or invites I need to send out, or marketing need to get more invites out for these people to come to our webinar or seminar. Marketing need to do this. Very few salespeople will actually look down at this thing that's sitting on their desk, right, and realize that it can make outbound calls as well as receive calls. So the magic of the phone is that you can press 9 or 10 digits and speak to just about anybody on the planet instantly, right? So cold outreach it's hard. It's like taking a cold shower, but that is where the rubber meets the road. And if your business is struggling, if things are slow and sluggish, etc., start asking yourself and looking at your salespeople and yourself to a certain extent and say, how many conversations did my business have, or anywhere along, with a potentially new customer, not an existing customer, but how many, and start with that number, and everything else falls in behind it. Yeah.
What do you think is the ideal recipe between old tactics and like scaling the business with the AI technology? What would be the best combination?
Well, the best combination is utilizing things like intelligent CRM platforms. Data is key to this. So having what I would call, and here in the Australian market, for instance, it's very, very easy or straightforward to build a universe or a total addressable market data set. Unlike, say, Europe or the United States, South America, Eastern Europe, etc., where you've got a lot of different cultures, languages, patients, a lot of other things that move around. Here in the relatively homogenous environment, you can build a data set. I'm speaking about B2B in this space. You can build a data set of maybe 4,000 or 5,000 prospective businesses relatively easily and cheaply. Your next job then is, okay, how do we actually converse with them, right? And the hard yards are literally that, right? Introducing yourself and speaking to them one by one. Now, you can scale that up by employing agencies like Strikeforce or empowering your sales team to actually manage those numbers. Whatever way it is, that is your total addressable market. And one way or another, you need to have a conversation with them. And a conversation is not an email, right? It's not a one-way thing. It's where we have a response. It is where we can challenge their way of thinking. Because let's face it, everybody that you're going to approach will have an incumbent solution in place. They will have something they're really happy with. It's working really well for them. It could be their cousin or uncle. It could be they're happy, whether it's an Excel sheet or whether it's a very complex piece of software. They have that solution in place. So you need to go in and challenge their way of thinking. You need to be able to prove why your product or service is actually going to cut through and help them with their problems, not yours, theirs. So that gets back to what I describe as my definition of selling is help your customers make a better buying decision. Now, there's a couple of important pieces in that. So first of all, we're helping our potential customers, but we're helping them make a better buying decision. Now, what that means is that if the better buying decision is not you, it might be a competitor's product. If your solution isn't the right one, you will find it a lot easier to approach cold prospects if you have that client-centric focus in mind. Whereas you give yourself the freedom to recommend a competitive product if that's the right solution for them. Here's the sort of the twist in that. You will only be able to help them once you understand what their challenges are, what their priorities are, what they need to do to achieve their goals in their business. You will only be able to do that when you've had a conversation, a diagnostic, consultative conversation, and you truly understand what they're trying to achieve. Before you try and, you don't need to sell anything. If your product can help them, then it'll help them. If it won't, then feel free to recommend another solution that will, because in a small market like this, in a small area, they will still be your prospect in 12 months, in 18 months, in 24 months' time. So get good at helping them, and that will come back to you threefold.
So powerful. I love it. And couldn't agree more. I think that's the way to go.
Makes it, if I pick up the phone and speak to you as a stranger, okay, and the only thing I'm doing is selling, like our product or service is better, faster, quicker, cheaper, etc. Most people, if they have receive a sales call, they're going, "Oh my God, how do I get? Their first thought is, how do I get this person off the phone? How do I get this person out of my office? Whereas if I flip that, so once I can create the impression, the easiest way to do it is from a genuine perspective. Once I can create the impression that I'm here to help you first, then it becomes a whole different kettle of fish, right? And I can refer, like, I don't run an accounting business or a bookkeeping business or anything in that area. But if I knew a potential prospect that I was speaking with, one of the things they came up with was maybe they posted something online that they're looking for a good accountant, or they're looking for a bookkeeper, or they're looking for someone who works in accounts payable. And if I know a business that provides that service, it's very easy for me to contact them and say, "Hey, John, look, we haven't spoken before, but I saw recently that you're trying to recruit for this type of a role. I'm not in that area, but I do know somebody who does. Do you mind if I flick them their details?" So my first contact with you is giving you something that helps you. Now, will you take my I don't sell anything. Will you take my call in a week's time or in 2 weeks' time? Well, you're more likely to, because I've got a client-centric approach as opposed to sell you something approach. Now, it's all sales, but the difference is in the philosophy is rather than me is to give first rather than expect to receive.
I wish more salespeople have similar approach. And I think we all, because it is oversaturated market everywhere you look, people are trying to grab your attention, sell you something, do something, but it's not always very beneficial to you. And hence we've been burned so many times as a consumer or as a business owner. So you're kind of trying to protect yourself in a sense. And this is, I think, why it's getting a little bit harder, and even for like legit, proper people who are trying to really help to scale your business and help you solve your problems. So thank you for the insights.
Well, on that, like, I think that everyone should have, if you haven't already, try and create like at least 4 different versions of your product or service. Okay. So what do I mean by that? So
yeah.
Our like Strikeforce Sales high-end one-on-one business development program, yeah, that's in the tens of thousands of dollars. However, you can still buy or engage. You can get most of the techniques and content online. I've got lots of videos. You can get the same product or service. You could buy the book, right? Okay, it'll cost you $40, $50 and read that, and you've got the same skill set. You just have to employ it yourself. Think about your product. How can you create a very cheap, almost free version of what you do? So I'll run like online training programs. I've got one that's, I think, is about $20, runs on Udemy. You can just do a course, or you can have a face-to-face course, runs on a monthly basis. That'll be a couple of $100. Or you could have a bespoke training program for you and your team, which will be priced for you separately, but the content will be designed for you. The reason I'm sharing that is because I've actively thought about how can I have the same amount of value, but allow the customer to choose at which price point they want to consume it. Do you want to consume? Because it's a lot easier to market and sell or promote something which is at low to no cost, but still adds value, and let the client choose at what value point they want to step in based on their needs.
Thank you.
Okay.
Looking ahead, what do you think is the biggest challenge you think businesses will face in keeping their sales strong and staying competitive?
Wow, that's a humongous question. I think that there's a number of challenges. One is that from a sales team perspective, is that a lot of businesses are recruiting from a pool of, let's call them experienced salespeople who have never truly been trained properly into the right process. So if, let's say you've got a sales team of 6, 7, 9, 10 people, you've already got, let's say it's 10, you've already got a budget well over $1 million, okay? Well over $1 million just to pay them. But I can almost guarantee that you don't have a system in place. See, one of the mistakes that a lot of businesses make is that they think their sales manager, or if they are themselves the sales manager, they run the sales team. They don't. Sales managers should run a sales system, and then the system runs the team. Now, a system, by the way, is not a CRM platform. Okay. A system is, are your team, or have your team, do they have the same definition of what selling is in your organization? So if you ask 10 people, would they all give you the same definition back? Because if they're not singing from the same song sheet, they've all got, oh no, I like to do it this way, or my background in this way. No, you employ a system to produce a consistent result. Okay. Your job is to manage the system, and the system then manages the people or the team. And that means certain behaviors like, what are the 4 key standard objections that you receive in your business? So many salespeople start a role, they get a seat, they go, "Okay, Bob, your seat. All right, that's your target market. We'll see you at the end of the month. Okay, here's your induction." Yeah, that business may have been running for 5, 10, 15 years or such, and they will have heard all of the standard objections in every which way they can be delivered. Would it not be a lot more useful to that, and you be coming into the system and say, "Hey, Bob, welcome to the team. Here are the 4 standard objections you're going to receive each and every day for the rest of your life. Learn these, and you'll be able to deal with them much more comfortably and confidently, and move that sale along, to move the sale forward." But we don't. We leave it up to them to figure it out bit by bit by themselves. So we end up with a disparate group of warriors, if you like, who all like doing it this way and all like doing it that way. And I get it. I'm like that myself. But I also understand that as a business owner, we have to have a systemized, methodical, managed approach to the deployment of this very expensive resource. So that we know that, for instance, do this tomorrow with your team. Just start off with this simple phrase, 10 before 10. Everybody on your sales team will make 10 outbound phone calls to potentially new prospects each and every day before 10 a.m., right? Sounds easy, right? If you've got 10 people, well, crikey, if you're making 10 before 10, you're making hundreds of outbound approaches each and every week. Now, it doesn't matter. Let's say all the phone calls are engaged. Let's say they all go to voicemail. Let's say no one answers the phone. It doesn't matter. What matters is the discipline or the approach, and the team knowing that everyday outreach is their key reason for existing. I employ salespeople to do one thing and one thing only, and that is outreach. Speak to more people, speak to strangers. Most salespeople don't understand. If you ask them, say, what's your core behavior each and every day? They'll go, it's to engage with my customers. It's to persuade and influence. Yes, all those things are good, but the number one thing is outreach each and every day. So as a business owner, focus on that. Give it a number and start measuring on that basis. No one will like it. Everyone will hate it. But you start building that culture within the team. So so there's no meetings until after 10 o'clock. And you can pick a different time. I just like 10 before 10 because it's easy to remember. Everybody gets it. Everybody, when they comes in to work in the morning, know that the first thing they're going to do is outreach. And 10 phone calls, by the way, will take about 20 minutes max. So you set them up the night before. Okay, so that's now it might sound a bit old school, and it might sound a bit icky. No one wants to do it, but I know, and you know, and all the viewers watching know that most of their salespeople don't make 50 outbound calls a month. Never mind a week, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And if they did that, they only need 1 or 2 to go, oh yeah. So what was that about again? That equals the first rung on the ladder towards success. That would be my number one recommendation.
Love it. Thank you so much. So insightful. I love this conversation. This was really, really great. And I think people will love to get in touch. What would be the best way to reach out to you?
Well,
Obviously, pick up the phone
just
and
pick up the
give
phone.
Ciaran a call.
I speak to, hopefully you'll put a link to either my LinkedIn profile or my websites or my books, or my phone number is in the book. When I'm training people, you probably wouldn't be amazed that I always say, look, it costs me nothing to take a phone call and say, do this. I give away advice all the time because it costs me 5 minutes and I'll say, do this, don't do that. At the end of a program with 10, 15, 20 salespeople, we've gone through a detailed training agenda. We've shown them what I will always say. You could always ring me just before you're about to go into a client, go into a prospect meeting, and you don't know quite what to do. You can always just ring me and I'll say, do this, don't do that. 90% of people don't pick up the phone. It's a bit like you go into your local bookshop and the book, it is full of how-to books, like how to get rich, how to buy real estate, how to get fit, how to attract more men, women, whatever it is you want. There's no shortage of content. There is a shortage of behavior. So only 10% of people who buy a how-to book will actually read it. Most people will just think, oh, right, how to get rich and influence people. Yeah, they'll buy it, they'll stick it on the shelf, and they have this. It's like joining the gym. It's not going to the gym; it's joining the gym. You have that sense that you've made that commitment, right? But it's going and the behavior that matters. So if you buy a how-to book, make sure first of all only 10% of people finish it. So read the thing, and then only 10% of people who actually finish it take action and do something or change their behavior on the basis of the knowledge they just consumed. So that would be another takeaway in the sense that there's no shortage of content, free or otherwise. But if you do take something on board, make it your own, take 100% of it on board, and then just start doing a little bit each and every day until it becomes a habit. Once it becomes a habit, you own it and you can move on and buy your next book or consume your next course.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Ciaran. This has been amazing.
Thank
to
you.
all of our listeners, all links, phone numbers, and books, everything you can find down in the description. If you like the episode, please comment below. Let us know your thoughts. And if there's anything else you would like to ask next time. Thank you and see you soon.
Thank you so
Bye.
much, Lenka. Thank you.